By the time the excavator's claw curled around my yacht and crumpled it like a soda can, the applause coming from Beverly, our HOA's president for life, sounded more like the cackling of a cartoon villain than anything remotely neighborly. She had a bullhorn in one hand, satisfaction in the other, and was announcing for the live stream. Yes, the drone was overhead, catching every angle of my humiliation, that this was what happened to people who didn't pay their dues. I just stood there, holding the stop work order I'd already signed for the deputy, grinned, and handed it over with a little flair. "Nice video," I said in that tone you save for idiots who don't realize the game's already over. "Want me to email the raw footage to your landlord?" Beverly blinked, looking confused, like she'd just realized her shoelaces were tied together. "My what?" she managed. I just nodded toward the Marina office. "Yeah, me." You should have seen her face. Let me back up a sec, because nobody expects their week to end with a demolition crew and a Coast Guard cutter in the same frame. My name's Nolan Pierce, and honestly, I'm a pretty boring guy on purpose. Spreadsheets, boat varnish, and being invisible, that's my scene. Blue Heron Harbor is the sort of marina where every mailbox is a miniature lighthouse. Every house number gets clear-coded twice a year, and every board member has that glossy, practiced smile, the kind you'd see on people who sell real estate on TV. Our HOA president, Beverly Cranston, wears her plastic visor like a crown and drags out the word governance until it's got 4 syllables. She decided I owed dock adjacency fees and, I kid you not, a reflections nuisance charge because my boat's polish allegedly ruined her sunset photos. Yeah, that happened. Thing is, I paid every penny I actually owed to the marina because the HOA doesn't even own the marina. Small detail, I know, but Beverly's allergic to those. First, there were neon sticky notes everywhere, accusing me of rope clutter, BOY disorder, and my favorite, non-conforming wind chimes. Those wind chimes were actually brass ship bells that had come with the yacht, standard equipment, but apparently too noisy for her quiet contemplation hours between 2 and 4 p.m. Compliance audits? She'd show up at 6 a.m., armed with a selfie stick, a tape measure, and the smugness of someone who's just discovered a typo in the Constitution, measuring dock lines and photographing my American flag, which she called an aggressive nautical display. Then came the flyers, grainy photo of me hauling groceries, bold type. Known violator of community standards. Tourists started taking pictures, thinking it was some new kind of art installation. And the fines, good grief. There was the standard late fee, the enhanced late fee, something called a compound administrative search charge, and, not making this up, a defiance multiplier, which doubled your fines if you so much as asked why you were being charged. My running total? Price of a decent compact car, and still climbing. Every Tuesday at 4 p.m., she'd hold accountability sessions, standing at the end of my dock with a megaphone, reading my supposed sins to anyone unlucky enough to be within 100 yards. Mr. Pierce has failed to submit his aquatic aesthetic compliance form. Like a judge, if judges ran on Pinot Grigio and self-importance. When I ignored her invoices, she escalated to multi-phase enforcement protocols. Phase 1, a red HOA lien sticker on my gangway, applied with full ceremonial flair, board members filming on an iPad. Phase 2, daily certified letters, each one inventing new violations, like excessive seagull attraction and unlicensed sunset reflection. Phase 3, her magnum opus, a 60-page maritime aesthetic violations report, spiral-bound and handed out to every slip holder. Never mind that the marina wasn't hers to regulate. The cherry on top was her emergency abatement order, a 43-page monstrosity co-written by her nephew, whose only legal experience was dropping out of law school after the first semester. She got it rubber-stamped by a 3-2 board vote, where the 2 dissenters, not coincidentally, were mysteriously muted for audio quality issues. Then came the big show. She hired Cranston Clearing and Removal, her brother-in-law's outfit, of course, paid $84,000 out of beautification reserves, and scheduled the demolition for 7 a.m. on a Saturday, when the real Marina office would be closed. Signs went up, residents welcome, with cartoon coffee cups and donuts, as if this was a neighborhood brunch instead of a public execution. She sent a mass email, Justice at Dawn, complete with popcorn and party hat emojis. Facebook event. Beverly restores order to our waters. Invited the whole harbor, the local news, even the mayor's office. Now, you might think I spent that night wallowing. Nope. I made calls, pulled every deed and permit, and faxed copies to my lawyer, who laughed so hard he had to put me on hold. By sunrise, I showed up with coffee, a stack of documents, and a harbor police officer who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I also brought Port Authority permits, Coastal Commission regulations, and, for dramatic effect, the master lease to Blue Heron Marina, which, surprise, my company had acquired months ago under Pierce Title LLC. That's right. I was Beverly's landlord. She barely blinked at the police, just waved her bullhorn, hollered, "Proceed with the demolition," and watched with glee as the excavator's claw bit into the deck, ripping teak like it was cardboard. Sirens blared. Coast Guard slid up the channel, all business. The officer, clearly not a morning person, asked for Beverly's authority to remove a registered vessel from a federally regulated waterway. Beverly, never one to let facts get in the way, handed over her HOA bylaws. He read them like you'd read a warranty in a foreign language, slow and more confused with every line. Now it was my turn. I produced the master lease, Marina parcel map, dock tenancy agreements, and a council letter on elegant letterhead, one word, cease. Harbor Patrol ticketed the demolition crew for unlawful removal. City inspector flagged the excavator, no waterside permit. Coast Guard radioed in an environmental risk assessment because, newsflash, grinding up fiberglass on the water isn't exactly community beautification. Beverly started to panic. "We have sovereign authority over community aesthetics," she stammered. The inspector pointed at the water, deadpan. "Ma'am, this is a navigable waterway, not your cul-de-sac." And then, like a twist in a movie, another cruiser pulled up. Out stepped Detective Branson, Property Crimes, who asked, ever so politely, why Beverly's name was on every invoice, contract, and check for $84,000 in public funds. She paled to the color of her lipstick. That evening, the HOA clubhouse, normally scented with lemon cleaner and mild anxiety, was packed. I rolled in a TV on wheels, old-school style, hit play, and let the drone footage speak for itself. Beverly on her bullhorn, the boat in splinters, Coast Guard citations scrolling by like movie credits. Then came my slide, ownership structure, tracing the lines from Pierce Title LLC right up to my signature. Gasps, whispers, the clatter of bracelets as jaws dropped. The city inspector explained, with the enthusiasm of a DMV clerk, the fines, environmental, maritime, property destruction, each one longer than Beverly's list of rules. The detective handed her a citation for criminal mischief and explained, in a tone you reserve for toddlers and white-collar criminals, that insurance might not cover willful acts. Then it was my turn. I stood up, feeling a little bad, honestly, and told everyone that, as the new Marina owner, I was terminating the HOA's access to all dock common areas, pending restitution. Beverly's visor had slipped down over one eye, like a melting crown. She tried to say something, but it came out as a squeak. Within 2 weeks, she was ousted by unanimous vote, first as president, then as treasurer, then as a resident when her legal fees drained her savings. The HOA, under new management, signed a restitution agreement. They replaced my yacht with a newer model, funded by insurance, and, let's be honest, mostly by Beverly's personal assets. They also coughed up for seagrass restoration, a fitting apology. The clubhouse now sports a plaque. This garden exists because someone mistook HOA bylaws for maritime law. Final scorecard? Beverly faced up to 5 years for criminal mischief, settled for 3 years probation, $375,000 in federal maritime fines, $200,000 in cleanup, and an $850,000 insurance lawsuit. Her home was in foreclosure within 60 days. At her last board meeting, she stood, handbag trembling, and whispered, "But I was just enforcing the rules." The gavel came down. She fainted. And here's the kicker. Nobody ever really agreed on who was right. Justice? Revenge? Or just two different kinds of stubborn going head-to-head in a place where the sun glints off every mistake? I'll tell you this. The next time someone waves a bullhorn in your face, remember, details matter. Now, what do you think? Was I right to fight back, Or did I just pour gas on a dumpster fire? Drop your take below. Let's hear where you stand on rules, justice, and how far you'd go to defend your home. If this story made you laugh or grit your teeth, hit that like, share it with someone who's tangled with an HOA, and don't forget to subscribe for more wild tales from the front lines of neighborhood drama.